Good morning or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. You guys, I am so excited. I have all this excited energy in my body because I'm just so excited for this Body Talk series. And we are starting today, and I could not be more grateful to be in this place here with you and about to share what I'm going to be sharing over the next couple of weeks with some really amazing, incredible women. So this is in celebration of my book. I have a copy here. I announced last week my book, Someone I Love Lives Here, is now available on Amazon in 3 formats for pre-order. It officially comes out on October 19th, and I'm so excited about this, but I always think about how can I share my message and create an impact and have a whole lot of fun doing it. So when I was thinking about this and when I was thinking about the book, hi Lorna, when I was thinking about the book and how I want to get this message out there and how I want to share this, for me, it's really important to highlight other women's stories. And also, like I said, I'm always trying to have fun with doing what I'm doing, make a huge impact on the world, but also have a lot of fun doing it. And so in my free time over the past 5, 6, 7 years, I love connecting with other women and just having like raw, honest, open, real conversations. It truly lights up my life. It makes me feel it's just so fulfilling and so healing, I believe. Especially one of the themes in my book is around my relationships with other women and, really always feeling like other women were catty or competitive or like I couldn't trust them. And that has shifted so much and it's been so healing. And my relationships with other women are honestly one of the most rich, fulfilling pieces of my life. So I'm just so excited, again, so honored to be here. And this is our very first of 11 Body Talk series, and we'll see. I already have a feeling that maybe I'll want to add on more after these 11, but we do have 11 scheduled, and so let's get into it. So I'm gonna look and see if perfect Lorna is here. Come on and join us live, but as she is perfect. So fast, you never know with technology, how it's gonna go, but welcome. Good morning, Lorna.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. I'm just gonna adjust my volume a little bit. It's kind of quiet. Okay. So to share a little bit with you guys, I'm so excited for this conversation with Lorna. We are new friends and have very similar kind of professional backgrounds. So I'm really, really excited to welcome her here and have this conversation. So to give you guys a little bit of background on Lorna before we get into it, she is a certified food freedom coach and founder of the Ditch Decades Diet Academy. She has conquered her 10-year battle with binge eating and no longer feels controlled by food. Hallelujah. She's helped hundreds of women from all over the world improve their relationship with food and break free from binge eating using her signature root and rewire process. And through rewiring the brain, Lorna's clients no longer feel the impulse to binge and therefore sustainably end their binge eating for good. So you guys, you have the experience of having 2 coaches here today. So exciting. And without further ado, welcome, Lorna. How are you doing this morning?
Oh my God, I am so grateful. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so just excited to have a genuine conversation about, my story and just be able to support your listeners and support your book. So thank you again so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So I'd love to hear in your own words just a little bit more about who you are, what you do. I know that's always such a big question, like tell us who you are, but I'd love to just hear a little from you on what you're all about.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Lorna and I am a binge eating coach. And ironically enough, I actually started off many years ago as a personal trainer and a health and fitness coach. I've always been super passionate about health and exercise and well-being. And for the life of me, I just couldn't stick with my diet. And I felt kind of like a fraud because here I was coaching other women. I was a personal trainer. I had my fitness studio, and I couldn't stick with my diet. And I was always falling off track. I would feel anxious going out to eat. And I would tell my clients, you know, go out for that burger, enjoy the fries, eat the pizza. And then there would be me who would have so much guilt, so much anxiety surrounding food. And I realized that a lot of my clients were actually feeling the same way as well too, to the point where they were, you know, getting upset if they couldn't stick to their diet plan. They, you know, would cancel plans to go out for dinner because, you know, it wasn't on their diet plan. And I said to myself, although I love supporting these women and helping them to get healthier and live, you know, more fulfilling lives and being active, I couldn't support them in the best way because I was still going through my own unhealthy relationship with food and struggling with binge eating. So I decided to get support myself, reach out for support, and I've of course conquered my binge eating and having a good relationship with food. And now I feel like I am in my purpose and I am making so much more of an impact because this is something that I've gone through, and I know what it feels like, and I know how horrible the cycle can be, but there definitely is a way out. So I am obsessed with helping my clients break free from binge eating.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I completely relate because, again, we do have very similar backgrounds with personal training, really kind of deep in the fitness world. And I know you used to compete as well, too, right?
Yes.
Mhm. So I know that's very, competing is so extreme. And, you know, I don't want to do blanket statements, but I think for me and a lot of people who did go down that path, and whether you did one competition or many competitions, I do think that can really exacerbate a lot of issues with eating. Definitely binge eating for me. I mean, it was such a nightmare when I was competing because the diets, everything was so restrictive, so that when I would finish a show, I'd love to hear a little on your experience with this, but I would binge like crazy after shows, and I sometimes would pack on like 20-30 pounds in a really short span of time, and not, you know, sharing the pounds or anything to be triggering, but just like even the way my body felt with like the swelling, the inflammation from these extreme binges, it was just, I look back and like, oh my gosh, just so awful. But our brains, you know, we're chemically set up when you're that restrictive for so long, and then you get a taste of like everything you've been telling yourself, no, I can't eat this. It was crazy what I experienced with that. So I'd love to hear just a little bit on your experience with that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember like weeks leading up to my show, I would be on Instagram with the hashtag like food porn, and I would be looking at all of the food that looks so good. And I was like so excited to eat after my competition. And as soon as my competition was over, of course, you know, you're like, I'm just gonna go out and I'm just gonna have like one cheat meal, or like it's just gonna be one meal, then I'm gonna get back on track so I don't rebound, because that was a big thing. You know, you've seen a lot of competitors like they're gonna blow up after their show, and I'm like, not me, just watch. And one cheat meal led into another, led into another. And for me, I never really put on, you know, 20-30 pounds, because I was somebody who actually struggled with over exercising, and I didn't really allow myself to get to that point. But man, oh man, it was, like you said, the swelling, the inflammation, the bloating. I just didn't even feel like myself anymore. And that comes with the guilt and the shame that I need to get back to competing. I need to book another competition so that I can force myself to stick back to my diet, force myself to get back onto this, you know, crazy regimented food plan, so that I can get back to my competition body.
Mm-hmm, totally. Yeah. And again, with the experience of serving clients and being like a personal trainer at the same time, I can look back and it's like, we always do the best with wherever we're at.
Yeah.
But I look back and it's like, so many of my clients were like inspired by my journey. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just, again, horrendous, like the habits I have. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Like, I love that your journey is, you've followed a very similar path of like really opening up to like I get to experience life to the fullest, and I don't need to have all the back and forth and all the shame spirals. Like, it can be this life of true food freedom. And again, it's like I wouldn't wish that on anyone the way that I was living. And yeah, I would love to hear for you too, kind of the transition to helping your clients kind of open up, expand into a place of food freedom.
Yeah. So I think for me, I think one of the biggest things was recognizing and acknowledging that I had a problem, because I think there's a difference between what is common and what is normal, right? It's very common to feel guilt after going out for dinner and getting the dessert. It's very normal to, at birthday parties being like, oh, I shouldn't have had that piece of cake. It's very normal, right? Everybody's kind of talking about this, but it's common, but it's not normal. I should say that. Common, but it's not normal. And I just thought, I needed more motivation. And I know my clients felt like they just needed to have more willpower. They should be more motivated to stick to their diet plan, when really there was an underlying issue going on there, which is, that relationship with food and the binge eating. And there is no shame in reaching out for support. I think it's beautiful. I mean, still to this day, I reach out for support in so many areas of my life, my business, my health, so many different areas. And I think that was really the thing that shifted for me, and that allowed my clients to also have that vulnerability and be open about their struggles, because this struggle of binge eating thrives in isolation. And if we kind of just hold it to ourselves, we can easily think, I'm broken, maybe she has more motivation and maybe I just don't have what it takes. But it has nothing to do with motivation or willpower, and everything to do with your brain, that you've ingrained this habit deeply in your brain. So since I was able to reach out for support and find somebody that had literally conquered the struggle that I was specifically going through, that gave me so much hope. That gave me so much excitement that there is a life that I can live free from binge eating. And once I was open about that, my clients realized too, that there's no shame in reaching out for support. And it's actually such a beautiful thing to get to a point of food freedom and loving your body again, because we put our bodies through hell and back through calorie restriction and forcing ourselves to work out, and we just don't want to live that way anymore. And my clients no longer want to live that way anymore as well too.
Amen. Absolutely. So many things you said there were gold. I love what you said about it's common but not normal. That's such a good way to put it. And I think, yeah, a lot of times we do just think like it's normal, it's okay. And it's like, it's not okay. And there is a whole other world. There are other options. And I love what you said about reaching out for support too. It's like, I believe in coaching so much. I always have multiple coaches, support, like the more the better, I really think. And, that's not weakness. I think that's being smart and supporting yourself in the most loving, honest way, because we're humans. And again, we have these hardwired patterns. And it's like, when you keep coming up against something, it's like, why not bring on all the support you can? So I love what you said about that. And then also, the motivation piece, like the motivation, willpower, feeling like I just need to be more disciplined. I mean, I look back and again, some of the things that I put myself through for the sake of competing, I'm like, that's insane. Like, I feel like I could never do it again. But I didn't lack discipline. It was just these really, unhelpful, dysfunctional habits I had, the back and forth. So it is just interesting because it certainly wasn't a lack of discipline or willpower. So, just to touch on that, I would say for women who think that, oh, if I just, next week, if I just buckle down and I just try a little harder, it's like, it's totally not about that. And actually, as you like loosen up a little bit and relax, I feel like it, goes the opposite direction. And that's why food freedom is such a great term, because it really does feel like freedom that you're opening up to.
Yeah. Yes, definitely, definitely.
So I'd love to hear, like, let's go all the way back. Like, I'd love to hear for you what the earliest memory you have, or kind of like an age where you started kind of having this awareness around food, maybe being good or bad, or what you should or shouldn't do around food, or maybe awareness around how your body was supposed to look, kind of some of that societal pressure that we feel as girls.
For sure. Yeah. So, man, taking it back to when I was 12, 14 years old, I grew up as a competitive dancer. And that in and of itself has so much pressure, of course, to look a certain way with these little tiny outfits, being a tiny little ballerina. And at the time, though, like, I never really was concerned about my body. Yes, I knew that, you had to look a certain way, so to speak, to be a ballerina or be a dancer, but I didn't really think there was anything wrong with my body. And there was actually one dancer who I so looked up to. She was incredible. She was tall, she was thin, she was beautiful. And there were rumors that she had actually called me fat. And like I said, I was not fat by any means. And I didn't even think about my body in that way until that comment was made. And from that day, grade 8, my dieting history began. And I became obsessed with my body, mirror checking all the time, having these food rules. I remember going to pack my lunch for grade 8 recess. Grade 8, like it's wild to me. And I would be only packing like fruits and vegetables, and I loved my snacks, but nope, can't afford to eat snacks because I got to lose this weight because I'm fat, right? And I would always be doing something with my diet, taking food groups out of my diet. That's when I started over exercising because I had this fear. I didn't want to be known as fat, especially as a dancer, and especially from somebody who I looked up to. So that was, yeah, probably my earliest memories, grade 8. And from that day, 10 years, it was a constant battle, hating my body, obsessing over calories, fearing food, fearing eating in front of other people. It was just a whole shebang.
Mm, yeah, I'm so sorry. It is, it's like, it's crazy how many of us, it starts so young, whether again, it's a comment about our bodies and how we look, or a comment about what we're eating. It's so heartbreaking how early it starts for so many of us.
Yeah.
So one of the aspects for me that like really breaks my heart about everything we're talking about is how much of our lives kind of are wasted on this. The energy, the time, the headspace, and how much it really seeps into other areas of our lives too. Like I know for me, for so many years, my relationships, especially romantic relationships with men, were very much impacted by my negative body image, my food issues. So I'm curious for you, kind of looking back on the timeline of your life, what are some things that you look back on that were really affected by, your negative body image or issues with food, again, the obsessive exercising or counting, like what else do you see that really affected?
Yeah, I would say every single part of my life was impacted. And I was actually looking back at the person that I reached out to, for the person who actually helped me break free from this cycle. I remember sending her a paragraph one day because I was so done. I was like, this is impacting my relationships. This is impacting my career. I can't even focus. All I'm thinking about is food. And it really is this all consuming thing. But I think one of the things mainly was my relationship. And I think this is really common, like you mentioned, but I just felt so bad because I knew how much I was putting this struggle on my boyfriend at the time, who didn't know how to help me, loved me, wanted to support me, but he just didn't know how. And I remember so many nights going to bed crying because I sabotaged with food again. I binged again, and I didn't even want to be intimate. Or if I was intimate, I'm like, all right, lights are off. Can you just close your eyes while we're doing this thing? Like, it was this thing where I didn't want to be seen. I hated the way my body looked, of course. And I just felt so bad because he didn't deserve that. Like, he didn't deserve this partner who wasn't present, who was irritable all the time, who was crying all the time, who didn't want to go out for dinner. There was this one time he planned a beautiful surprise dinner for me. Well, it wasn't a surprise dinner, a dinner for me. And I binged that day. And I told myself, like, you're going to be eating in a few hours. You're going out for dinner for your birthday. Like, you don't need to eat right now. And there I was, uncontrollably going in the freezer, eating frozen chocolate chip banana bread, stuffing my face. And it ended up, when we were going out for dinner, I was so full I couldn't even eat dinner. And that hit me so hard. I'm like, this is not okay. This is not how you want to show up in a relationship. You're not making memories, because the entire time I felt bloated. I felt full. I felt disappointed in myself. And that's just no way to live. So for sure, my relationships, but also my career. You know, I knew that I had this fire in me. I knew I had this passion in me to make an impact in other women's lives. And I felt like my life was on pause. I couldn't show up as the best me. I couldn't make an impact in other women's lives because I didn't feel like myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I forgot what the real, happy, healthy, fulfilling Lorna was. I didn't even know who I was anymore. And my brain was just so consumed with food and my body that I couldn't thrive in my career. So literally it impacted absolutely everything, but those two, I guess, would be the biggest ones, alongside, of course, my health. I mean, I had adrenal fatigue, I had bloating issues, I had SIBO, my metabolism was messed up. So it literally just impacts every single area of your life.
Yeah. All of this, like, I can relate to all of this, sadly. You know, the adrenal fatigue piece.
Yeah.
When you're talking about with, that was your then boyfriend, now husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of similar. I was even thinking back, like the first vacation I went on with my now husband when he was my boyfriend. We went on a cruise, and I just, like, what stands out to me so much, even thinking back, was like how freaked out I was about the food on the cruise and like not looking good in my bikini or dress. It's just like, you know, and our partners usually, again, it's so hard for them because they're like, you're beautiful, I love you, you're perfect, what is, you know, what's going on? And if you haven't been there, it's something that really, you know, you can't fully understand how consuming it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I love everything you shared. Thank you for being so open about all of that. And yeah, the career path too, again, it's very interesting with, you know, I loved much. I loved working with clients because I loved having this positive impact on people. But then I turned it around and like just put so much pressure on me and made it about how I needed to look, or, you know, having to be this perfect body and all of that. And it's like, people don't really care about that. Like, if you're helping them, you're helping them. And that feels amazing. Like, for me now, it's like the days that feel most fulfilling aren't when I'm like, yeah, I look awesome today. It's like, no, I helped people today. It feels so it's beautiful, again, the transition you've experienced and where you are now, because again, so much of what you've shared, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is same.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I know you have come a really, really, really long way, and so amazing where you are now, again, considering where you were. So can you share a little bit about your healing journey? I know you did reach out and got some support, but can you tell us a little bit about what really helped along the way, what that looked like for you, you know, kind of the healing process to get to the other side of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, my healing journey, I would say it was messy. You know, I think we have this like vision of like what it's supposed to look like or what it's going to look like. And I mean, the healing journey is up and down. You know, you're going to have really, really good days. I had some days where like I haven't binged and I'm like, yes, like this is amazing. And then the next day I would end up in a binge with like a week-long spiral binge. There would be days where I'm like feeling really good in my own skin. And then there would be days where I'm like, did I just gain 15 pounds overnight? And I think that's really important to address, that your journey is not going to be perfect, that it's not linear, and you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. And even when I was recovering from binge eating, I was still binge eating. Like, it is part of the process. It is going to be messy, so to speak. There is going to be those good days and those bad days, but having a sisterhood or a community that you can rely on and chat about, you know, your struggles with, was literally life-changing for me. Because again, going back to like thinking that you're the exception, you're the only one struggling with this, you're the weird one, or you're the oddball out, or like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you just, you know, eat normally? But there is other woman who is literally going through this exact same thing, and being able to share your struggles, share your bad body image day, share the fact that you just binge, and also sharing those days where you didn't binge, sharing those days where you honored your body, you listened to your body, and being celebrated is a game changer. And we all need that support. We need that community. We need that connection to remind ourselves that we're in this together. We don't have to go through this alone. And there are women that can lift you up when you're feeling down and just support you along your way. I think that was really a game changer for myself personally, because I knew for a fact I could not do this alone. No matter how much I knew about nutrition and how smart I was, how intelligent I was in so many other areas of my life, I couldn't do this alone. And I wasn't going to pretend to do this alone, because I tried for 10 years and I realized that I needed that sisterhood. I needed somebody to literally just give me this step-by-step process to be free. And yeah, I mean, it is a journey, and there are so many times where I'm like, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back to tracking macros. I don't care if I struggle with binge eating for the rest of my life. It actually got to that point where I was like, I don't care if I struggle with binge eating for the rest of my life. I would rather still track macros and, you know, still try to fix my body, because that was what seemed to be more important to me at the time. But like I said, because I had that community, I didn't allow myself to go back, because we're all in this together, and they were all feeling those same fears of weight gain. And I don't know if this is for me, maybe I should go back to dieting. But once you heal your relationship with food and you end your binge eating, you can actually reach a healthy weight, and you don't have to track macros. You don't have to go to these extremes. So it is worth it. Keep going, keep fighting. It's worth it.
Yeah. Again, so interesting with the macros, like how much there is here with the synchronicities. But that was my thing too. It was like the last piece, the last layer. And I still have clients that they're like, I don't know, I think I might just go back to it. And like, I mean, for one, no one wants to live like that. Like, the day I deleted my Fitness Pal for good was a magical day. You know, it's just like, and then, you know, really relearning how to trust our bodies, and knowing that it can be really natural and so much simpler. And, you know, I think it really, I was curious when you were saying like the point where you're like, I don't even care if I binge eat the rest of my life. Like, do you feel like that was very tied into control, or what do you feel like you know, the deeper call to keep those habits? What do you feel like that was?
Honestly, it was a combination of safety. Like, I felt so safe tracking macros. I felt like, well, this is what I did to get a certain result. So if I just do this again, well, of course I'm going to see that result. I almost felt lazy going into intuitive eating. I'm like, am I just giving up? Like, am I just like gonna be in a bigger body and just like, am I gonna be okay with that? Like, and I just like, it's so crazy how we think this way. But yeah, it was a combination of control. And I think too, it was the fear of like, what are people gonna say about my body changing? And your body does not need to change when you go to intuitively eating. I think there's a misconception that like, once you stop dieting, you're going to gain all this weight. That doesn't have to be the case. But for me, I was so fearful. Like, what are other people going to think about me? Are they going to think that I'm lazy? Are they going to think that I'm not as motivated as before? And at the time, like I said, I was a trainer. So that was like scary. Like I didn't want to let this identity piece go, right? It was like the label, like I was the fit one, I was the healthy one. And if I'm not the fit and healthy one anymore, what are people going to think about me? So that was kind of going on in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely relate to that too. And I was so fearful and triggered by the idea of intuitive eating first for the same reasons. And it it ended up totally not being my experience at all. Like again, if anything, I'm like, man, I wish I knew all this stuff back
Yeah.
when I was competing or doing what I was doing, because it would have been a whole lot simpler and kinder to myself. But again,
Yeah.
everything's like hindsight. So I also wanted to just point out, I love how you shared, kind of looking at your healing journey and the ups and downs and how it's messy. And like when you said, I'm a smart person, like, why can't I figure this out? I love that you shared that, because a lot of women feel that way too. It's like there's a shame around, like, I'm successful in these areas and I know I'm a smart person, like, what is going on? But I just want to present how deep and complicated and layered these issues are, because again, so much of it goes back to very early programming and messages we get. And so I just wanted to point that out. I think that's really beautiful that you shared that we can be extremely successful, we are successful, smart, capable humans, and still be struggling with
Totally.
these things.
Totally.
So yeah. So one of the messages in my book is to burn the rule book. And this just means, again, going back to that cultural programming, those messages we get, sometimes I think we can take on at a very early age these rules of like what it means to be a woman, or how others will see us as valuable, and all of these things. So I'd love to hear if there's anything that stands out as far as a rule that you used to play by or live by that you have since, hit the unsubscribe button and really rewritten your own rule on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would definitely be a smaller me is a better me. And, you know, I never felt like I fit in with, I know at the beginning you were talking about friendships and relationships, and I always felt like the oddball out. I felt like I was just different from everybody else. I never drank, I never smoked, I never went to clubs. I was like the grandma at 9 o'clock at night going to bed when everyone else was partying. And I just figured, well, maybe if I can control my body and like if I can, fix my body in a way, maybe that will draw more attention. People will like me more and people love me more and I'll get more attention. And that was so far from the truth. I think when I was at my smallest, I felt the most isolated. I felt the most disconnected because I wasn't present. I wouldn't even go out with my friends for dinner. So I felt like I was completely disconnected. So that is definitely a belief that I've believed for so long, and definitely hit that unsubscribe button and realize that we're just so much more than our bodies. And we think that everybody is just like all eyeballs on our body, but people love you for your heart. They love you for who you are, for how you make them feel. I think that's such a beautiful thing to understand too, is like when I'm feeling shitty in my body, I'm like, how can I make somebody else feel good? I want to be remembered for making that person feel good. I don't want to be remembered for, weighing 10 pounds less or 5 pounds less. So that was something that was, I guess, my experience.
Totally. Yeah. And just as you were saying that, it like came into my mind. I'm like, when I was my leanest, I was definitely like the worst person I've ever been in my life. That was the worst version of me,
Yeah.
by hands down. So again, it's really interesting because every once in a while I'll get the question of like, well, do you miss that? And I'm like, hell no. Like,
Yeah.
I would never ever go back. Like, I'm not missing any of it. So that was so,
Yeah.
well, I absolutely loved this conversation. And before we go, I would love to hear if there was a woman watching today that is where you used to be, who's really, really in the thick of it, really struggling with this and doesn't know where to start, what advice would you share with her?
I think this is probably the advice that probably not many people want to hear, but there is a way out. And I remember getting so angry when somebody would say that, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, you can conquer this. I'm like, no, maybe you could, but I can't, right? Like, maybe you feel like you're the exception right now, but I promise you there is a way out. And despite if you've tried it all, maybe you just haven't tried the thing that worked for you, because there's so many different approaches to healing. And I mean, I've tried therapy, I've tried naturopaths and dietitians, and it wasn't until I realized that I've wired this habit so deeply in my brain that I needed to rewire and reprogram my brain that I became free. But I felt that way too. I felt like there was no way out. I liked binge eating too much, ironically, that I would never heal from this. But I promise you there is a way out. You just gotta reprogram your brain, rewire your brain, get to the root, and there is a way to live a life where you're no longer obsessed around calories and no longer thinking about food all the time. And you just got to reach out for support.
Mm, so beautifully said. And I'm like, honestly, that was the message I needed back then too, because I was so in my story and I was like, that might work for you guys, but you don't know my story. You know, we all are like, well, my stuff is,
Yeah.
I'm special sort of damaged, you know, like, so I truly believe that too. And it's like, we can rewire anything. And, you know, and that's support too. There's no way I could be where I am today without a ton of support, a ton of, you know, professional guidance and loving support. And just again, surrounding ourselves with the right people who will really see where we want to go and believe we can get there, believe we absolutely can have it. And it's like, you know, come on over. You know, we need
Yeah.
that. We're human and we do, you know, we wake up some days and we feel like we're all sorts of messed up and we need those people in our lives to really hold us high. So
Yeah.
I love shared.
Yeah, you don't, it's almost like you don't have to unnecessarily struggle, because there are people out there who literally have the blueprints, who are so excited, like you said, so excited to support you. So you're so held, you're so guided, you're so supported.
Yeah. And I love that you just said blueprint too. You know, there are blueprints for anything. Like someone has done it. Someone has been where you were and gotten to the other side of it. And it's like, you know, like you said, you don't need to unnecessarily struggle anymore. As long as you choose, you know, I'm ready for something new. So
Yes.
very inspiring. Everything you shared again, so so beautiful. So thank you so much, Lorna. I so appreciate your time today and just sharing your wisdom with us, sharing your story so honestly. I know it's going to help a lot of women.
Yeah. So much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope that there is a lot of hope after hearing this, and anything possible.
Thank you. So you guys definitely, if you're not already, go follow Lorna. She shares all kinds of amazing content, lots of reels and quick tips, which we all love so much in today's fast-paced world. So definitely head over there, check out her content. And again, Lorna, thank you for being here with us today, and have an amazing day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.